think we all need to just be careful and take one step back. There's that moment when you've learned to swim and therefore you can walk into the deep end where your feet no longer touch the bottom of the pool anymore, and you're like, oh, I'm swimming. That's where we are right now. We just got to make sure we can swim. So in college football terms, in practical worldview terms, that means you better know what you're talking about before you run that mouth too much to your friends. And I'm talking to me just as much as I'm talking to you guys. Let me give you an example. Well, first let me tell you it's Thursday, November 13th, the year of our Lord 2025. Let me tell you we're jam-packed. Let me tell you we're high atop an anxious downtown Nashville, Tennessee. I just chugged an entire mug of coffee right before we came on air. So I'm good. I'm great. I'm wonderful. Ignore me scratching my neck. But the warning I'm trying to give is, for example, I was walking through the office today, and I look up on the screen, and I see a lower third, and there is a network talking about whether the SEC should get half a dozen teams into the playoff. And I thought to myself, are you partially responsible for this kind of rhetoric? Maybe. So we're going to do our best to fire hose it. We're going to put out the fire. We didn't start the fire. We're going to put out the fire tonight because I think I've identified some disaster scenarios for the SEC. Those are always popular, Jesse, right? Those always do good traffic. SEC and poison. That's our thumbnail. So we're going to do that. Of course, it's Thursday. We're going to do upset alerts. We're going to have Cole Cubelic on a little bit later. We're going to talk about the aforementioned chaos scenarios. That's just one. I've got more. Got some stuff on LSU. We're going to open the mailbag. It could become a constant on Thursday. We're going to open the mailbag. First time I think we've done it all year. So, yeah, we got a lot to discuss. And did you know they're watching us in Montgomery, Alabama? Bradley does. He hails from Montgomery, Alabama. Salem, Oregon. Muncie, Indiana. Charleston, South Carolina. They're tuned in. We are right around 480,000 subs on the YouTube channel, which means we got 20K more to go before the biggest party we've ever had here. We've never had a party, so I don't really know. Any party would be our biggest party. We got video the other night. I'm going to save it for like the Sunday show to play for you of a guy parked in his parents' driveway, and he recorded himself getting out of the car, walking into his parents' house after they had already gone to bed, respectful, classy, picks up their phones and subscribes to the channel. It's wholesome, it's great content, it's legal, I think, in most states, and it helps us get closer to 500K. And by the way, that should only be done under the safest of precautions, but it also should only be done if you've already subscribed to the channel, so make sure you have. I think we're about to start the upset alert segment, but I also think we're going to go late on Friday Night Lines tomorrow night, so our normal time. I'll make sure you know tomorrow. Make sure you're following on Twitter and Instagram at Josh Pate CFB. So I'd probably say like either halftime of the late games or after the early games are over. It'll be something like that. But in the meantime, let's talk about games. Upset alerts, Week 12 edition. We like to, on Thursdays around here, go over some games presented by FlexPower, generated by FlexPower, best generators in the business, myflexpower.com if you're interested. And we like to circle some games that, you know, maybe we haven't picked the upset, but we're concerned. Maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, we're concerned. How concerned would we be? For example, Michigan's playing Northwestern at Wrigley Field. I've never been to Wrigley Field. I don't know how it plays for a football game. I just know Michigan's favored by 11.5 in this game, and I'm going to put my upset alert concern at about a 6 because I've been following Michigan pretty closely, and we have made some money this year betting Michigan, like in the Purdue game, for example. They were favored by way too many points. They won, and so they're favored by 11.5 here. Could they lose outright? Sure, they could. No Justice Haynes, 11 a.m. kickoff, Northwestern run defense. Kind of leaky, but it's kind of a condensed game as well. So if you come out of the bye week and you're starting off a little slow, like we saw Alabama do last week, yeah, it could be that kind of game. Good defenses here, though. Like Northwestern, not a bad team. Not a bad team this year. They've pushed some folks. They beat some folks. It's just the kind of game where you find out how much your team's been paying attention to the noise. The noise being some people are starting to wake up to the idea that Michigan is still in the running for a playoff spot. Of course they are. They're still in the running for the Big Ten championship. But now in November is when you start to see the horizon. And you can see that Ohio State logo on the horizon. And everyone starts assuming you'll just still be a 10-2 team when you get there. Make sure you're still a a 2-loss team when you get there. That is well within your control. I'm putting a 6 on this because I think Northwestern can make games ugly, and Michigan should, but will they? That's kind of my vibe on this one. Next up, South Carolina goes to Texas A&M this Saturday. You know what South Carolina's record is right now? They're sitting there at 3-6. They got 3 games left. By our math, they got to win them all if they want to make a bowl game. I've got a piece of paper in front of me. You hear that? That's the sound of nothing. Nothing on this piece of paper indicates that South Carolina is getting ready to spring an upset. We just watched A&M come out of their bye. They went on the road last week. They won in pretty convincing fashion. Look, Lenora Sellers could have a Superman game here and A&M still win. Just kind of win closer, maybe not cover, but still win. A&M's ground game against the number 82 run defense in the country, I tried, guys. I have a very hard time. I'm going to put a 2 on it just because South Carolina has good athletes on the field. Technically, anything can happen. This would be tough. There would have to be a lot of help given to South Carolina by Texas A&M for this to happen. Who knows? Maybe it's a crazy -4 turnover game and it goes down to the final minutes, but there's a lot that has to go right. So I'm going to put a 2 on it, and we'll just monitor it. Next up, this one I've got a little more concern about. It's NC State versus Miami. Now, Miami's a 15.5-point favorite. Miami's got totally new life. You thought maybe when they were headed home from Dallas, they just lost their second game to SMU. They may be out of the playoff picture. Then the rankings come out, and they were 18th. And you're like, wow, they don't really have any big-time opponents left either. How are they going to climb all the way up? Well, they climbed 3 spots last week. And we did the little exercise on Tuesday where we showed you everyone who's ahead of Miami and the hurdles they still have to clear. There's no doubt that some of the shrubbery will get cleared ahead of Miami as long as they stay on the path of 10-2. As long as they can do that, then there will be a path for them. Well, this is the first of their 3 remaining hurdles. It's their last home game. They go on the road to Virginia Tech next week. They go to at Pitt the week after that. So this profile is similar to the SMU game, I think, for Miami. NC State's got the second worst pass defense in the country. SMU's got the worst. So remember, we looked at that game and we said, Carson Beck, it's going to be his game against SMU. Because the plays are there to be made in the secondary, you got to make them. Well, they didn't make enough of them. And they ended up with a costly turnover down to the goal line. So again, you should be able to throw the ball effectively here. NC State's got a top 25 passing offense. Can they threaten Miami's secondary? It's not going to be a situation where you get up, like 17-6 and just kind of wait it out. NC State can score. They can. They possess the capability to do that. So you need offensive consistency. You need rhythm. You need good effectiveness in your passing game. Will you get that? Their run defense at NC State has been decent. So Miami probably needs to throw the ball to win this game. For that reason, because of some of the inconsistency that's been there, I'm going to put a 5 on this. I have already seen Miami lose, a couple of games as a double-digit favorite this year. So just because there's a 15.5 there, it doesn't make me worry about this game any less than I otherwise would have. I'm gonna put a 5 on it. Now, if they win 42-3, then I start buying into the hype again. Florida at Ole Miss. Got some buddies going to this game. They circled it early in the year, in the summer even, and they said, that's the one. We've never been to the Grove. That's the one. That one's really going to pop off. Florida, Napier, got Lagway back, man, one of the most experienced teams, really talented. Nope. As it turns out, nope. Is Florida motivated or are they dead? Because we saw them motivated against Georgia and we saw them dead against Kentucky. I lean towards the latter. I think it was a tap-out moment last week. They were a no-show. It's the second leg of back-to-back road games here. Ole Miss has got everything in the world to play for. Also, Ole Miss has got a revenge spot on their hands here. They know if they win, they're in. It's not officially labeled that. Nobody from the committee hit us up and told us that. But Ole Miss, if they win this game, they've got Mississippi State left. That's it. The worst they could be is 10-2 if they win this game. And I think they're going to. I'm going to put a 3 on it because of the athletic profile that Florida has, but they're banged up. They got guys that are probably out for the rest of the year. I just would have a hard time seeing Ole Miss overlook this, and they're the better team. And Lane Kiffin, I don't know which of these teams he's going to be the head coach for next year, but I know he's the head coach at Ole Miss right now, and that will matter. So give me a 3 on the upset alert concern meter. Utah at Baylor. Told you, Utah's got a sneaky tough road the rest of the way. Baylor, Kansas State, and Kansas are not ranked in the top 25, but we've got them power rated all in the top 35. So not elite opponents, but not bad opponents. Utah's trying to get one of those at-large spots. They got an elite pass defense, and that's going to be how Baylor tries to beat them. Sawyer Robinson, that Baylor passing attack, that's how they have to win. They don't run the ball great, and that, ironically, is how you would challenge Utah. You would challenge them that way, but you can't if you can't run the ball. It's like the total inverse of how we describe the Alabama-Oklahoma game, where that is strength on weakness. Well, we got weakness on weakness here. So I don't know that Baylor can fully take advantage of what's there maybe to be taken advantage of, and Baylor cannot stop the run, I don't think, effectively enough against Utah, and I think Utah can run it all night. I'll put a 5 on it. The model actually loves Baylor. I don't see it. I think Utah understands maybe, just maybe, that door's still cracked open. Now, I've got them power rated as the best team in the Big 12 right now. Controversial, I know, but either way, if you agree with that or not, they're still a good team. So I'm going to put a 5 on it. And then the last one, we'll stay in that conference. Nobody is talking about this. Nobody is talking about BYU. Oh, they're talking about them. They're just not talking about who they play this week. TCU is at Brigham Young this week. At Brigham Young. With home field advantage factored in, BYU is a 3.5-point favorite. That's basically implying they're equal on a neutral field, TCU. 2 of TCU's 3 losses are by a field goal. Very close losses. They just lost to Iowa State, I believe, last week. They've got a top 10 passing offense. TCU, decent run defense. It may be the same script as last week. You get a lead on Brigham Young and force them to try and throw the ball to catch up. TCU's got the 104th ranked pass defense in the country. So if Brigham Young can throw the ball, they could win this game and win it convincingly. Can they do it is the question. Can they do it? I think it's a very dangerous game. So I'm going to put an 8.5 on this. I mean, it's implied neutral field equal team. So yes, I'm going to put an 8.5 on it. And everybody's looking at Brigham Young like, oh man, could they get back to Dallas? Could they get back to the Big 12 championship game? Dude, they got to win this week. And then they got Cincinnati coming up, I believe. They got to win this week. So I'm going to put an 8.5 on that one. We will be in Athens, Georgia for Texas, Georgia. We're headed down there tomorrow, actually, courtesy of our friends at Quick Trip, fueling us every step of the way. We appreciate them so much. We're actually going to hang out with them. They are doing an activation down there, right out front, I believe, of the Miller Learning Center, and man, they're going to have autographs, not by me, by actual people who played at the University of Georgia. Free Coke floats, not to be confused with the movie Hope Floats. They could show it for all I know. They haven't told me they're going to do that. Quick reminder, our best-selling Fall Don't Lie shirt to date was last week. It was the Lubbock t-shirt. The Athens t-shirt is right on its heels right now, and it's available for about 2 more days through Saturday, and then it's gone forever. I can't even get it after that. I probably could, but I shouldn't be able to. So PateStateMaterial.com right now, and it'll be probably right there on the front page. You can get it there. All right, let's move on. Do you want chaos? Do you want playoff chaos? Well, there are several ways this could happen. Just when that playoff picture starts to look nice and neat and tidy, I come to you with this. Everyone out there seems to be talking about how many teams the SEC could get in the playoff. We did it last week, and I said, hey, there's a chance there are as many as 7 SEC teams that finish the season with 2 or fewer losses. It's not that hard to picture. Oklahoma goes undefeated the rest of the way. Texas goes undefeated. Vandy wins out. You probably have A&M, Bama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas, OU, Vandy. That's 7 SEC teams that finish with 2 losses or fewer. Everyone's having fun with that. But you know what I'd like to do? While everyone else is zigging, I'd like to zag here for just a second. What about the SEC contender collapse conundrum? Tough. But we powered through it there. Because no one's talking about that, it seems. You know, Alabama plays Oklahoma this week. They could lose the game. Do you know the position that would put Alabama in? That would make them 9-2 after they play Eastern Illinois next week, going to Auburn with their playoff lives on the line, needing to win the Iron Bowl. I don't need to tell Bama fans what it's like to have anything of consequence on the line going to Jordan-Hare Stadium. No one's mind is even going there. Everyone's got Bama penciled in to Atlanta, first round bye maybe, or maybe they don't make the playoff. That's in the cards. Georgia plays Texas day after tomorrow. They could lose the game. They could play Georgia Tech and lose. Georgia, 3-loss team, out, not in the playoff. It's right there. Like that game against Georgia Tech, I know it says at Georgia Tech. It's really in Mercedes-Benz Stadium because sadly, Georgia Tech took a paycheck in exchange for moving the game. I'm not going to fault anyone. I just hate that it exists. But those are both losable games. Georgia could be out. They could be done, just like that. What about Texas? It's a lot easier to see Texas being out. They're a 6.5-point dog against Georgia Saturday. They also play Arkansas. They play Texas A&M. It's still a really tough road for Texas. Texas could easily be out. OU could lose to Bama this weekend, or lose to Missouri, or lose to LSU. They could easily be out. Vanderbilt plays Kentucky and then goes to Tennessee. One more loss there, they're done. My point there is, it's tough for me to envision A&M not making the playoff. It's tough for me to envision Ole Miss not making the playoff. But outside of that, there's easily a path where Bama falls out, or Georgia falls out, or Texas falls out, or Oklahoma falls out, or Vandy falls out, or a combination of all of them fall out. Yeah, that can happen. And don't let the aggregation sites tell you it can't. Don't let press conferences tell you it can't. It most certainly can. Wouldn't be great for business in some corners of this country, but it certainly could. Now, on a related note, as we look to the SEC's neighbors to the north, the Big Ten, what about what we are calling the Big Ten flood conundrum? Not the Great Flood, just a normal garden variety figurative flood here. Follow me on this. I know some of you are visual learners. I am too, especially if you're on podcasts. I'm going to walk you through it. It's actually not that complicated. All right, right now, what is everyone thinking about the Big Ten? They're thinking Ohio State's in, Indiana's in, Oregon going to be in, so they'll have 3 teams. You know, maybe they get a 4th team. That's kind of where the general national consensus is, I've thought. All right, well, let's just tinker with it a little bit, immunity. Let's just move some things around. Let's say USC wins out. What does that include? Well, that includes them beating Iowa. It includes them going to Oregon and winning next week. And it includes them beating UCLA. USC finishes 10-2. They may even have found their way into the Big Ten championship game, but at worst, they're a 10-2, almost certain to be an at-large playoff team. What if Michigan wins out? That means they beat Northwestern, they beat Maryland, and they beat Ohio State at the end of the year. And before you say it's improbable, I've said it the last 4 years and been wrong. So I'm going to wait. I'm not going to be that guy again. Michigan would be 10-2. Now, here's what you really need to remember. Michigan's got 1 conference loss. So does that point Ohio State. If Ohio State loses to Michigan, they've both got 1 conference loss. Michigan's got the tiebreaker. If Indiana's in Indianapolis awaiting their opponent, Michigan would get the nod over Ohio State. The only question at that point would be, how does USC factor into that? And I don't even know the Big Ten tiebreaker scenario. But at the very worst, there's a 10-2 Michigan sitting there. They're going to the playoff. If they beat Ohio State, they've got the best win in the country at the very end of the year. 10-2 Michigan's going to the playoff. If Oregon just loses to USC, but otherwise they win out, Oregon's 10-2. That's it. That's all I have to say. Okay? So I just need a couple of things to happen that are well within the realm of possibility. And the Big Ten would all of a sudden have 5 playoff caliber teams. Ohio State would be there. Indiana would be there. Michigan, Oregon, USC. They're all there. And what if the perfect combination happens? What if after all the talk over the past month of how many teams the SEC could get in, 6 or more maybe, and after all the talk of, man, could it just be Ohio State and Indiana and that's it? What if the Big Ten has more playoff teams than the SEC? Whew. Whew. And then we haven't even talked about the ACC Doomsday scenario. Well, actually, we did. We talked about it Tuesday night. The ACC Doomsday scenario is just where the ACC does not get a playoff team in. What would happen in the ACC Doomsday scenario? I'll lay it out for you again if you missed the Tuesday show. But what would happen is 2 G5 teams would make the playoff. And since we're still so early in the playoff, what you've really seen is you've seen one version of the 12-team playoff. We've seen 1 year of it. And then otherwise, you've just seen projections and hypotheticals sketched on napkins and pizza boxes. You haven't really seen the real thing play out but once. So we really don't know what can and can't happen. For instance, there is a crowd out there that tells themselves G5 conference, not G5, Power 4 conference champs will always have a way into the playoff. Most of America actually thinks Power 4 conference champs are guaranteed a playoff spot. They don't even know the rules. That is not the rule. That is not the way it's written at all. That's not the structure of the playoff. The structure is this. Remember this. It's 5 and 7. 7 at-large spots, 5 spots reserved, follow me here, for the highest ranked conference champions. It didn't say Power 4. It's just always been assumed that if you're taking 5 conference champs, easily the Power 4 conference champs will be among the 5 highest ranked. They're even giving you wiggle room there. Like, you don't even need to be top 4. A G5 conference champ could even be ahead of you, but surely 2 G5 conference champs would never be ahead of a Power 4 conference champ. Well, I thought that too. Enter Duke. Duke right now has 4 losses. They're 5 and 4. But they only have 1 loss in conference play. Now, it's still a little bit of a long shot, but Duke, if they beat Virginia and North Carolina and Wake Forest, will go to Charlotte to play for the conference title. They'd probably play Georgia Tech. We'll see about that. And regardless of who they play, they'd be in Charlotte. If they win the game, they would be a 9 and 4 conference champion, a 4-loss team. And at that point, here's what we have to ask ourselves. I'm almost certain the American Conference champ will be ranked higher than Duke. That may be Tulane, it may be South Florida. Either one of them would be ranked higher than Duke. Already, we know that South Florida is ranked 25th in the committee poll. So we know where they're ranked. So the conference champ there is going to be in the 20 to 25 range. They'd be in. Here's what we don't know. If James Madison runs the table, I think they play like Coastal Carolina. There it is. They play App State, they play Washington State, and they play at Coastal Carolina. If they run the table, the question is, in this scenario, are they ranked higher than Duke? If they are, the ACC's conference champ is getting left out of the playoff. Now, I've heard some theories on what the playoff committee would do here. There is a theory out there. It's a little conspiratorial, which is fine. It's the playoff committee we're talking about after all. There's a theory out there that if you watch the playoff committee rankings or you look at them, you'll notice they don't show you past 25. They show you 1 through 25, and if there's no G5 team in the top 25, they let you know who the highest ranked G5 team is. Now, in this case, there is a G5 team in the top 25. It's USF. We don't know where James Madison is ranked, but there are context clues. So it's not like we don't have any idea where JMU is ranked. Right now, the playoff committee rankings pretty closely mirror what the AP poll is. The AP poll has USF 25 as well. It has James Madison 24th. So either the playoff committee rankings wildly deviate when it comes to James Madison, or James Madison's pretty comparable right now in resume to USF. And if that's the case, and they both win out and they win their conference championships, they're not dropping. They're only going to elevate. So I would assume both be in the 20 to 25 range. At that point, you've got to ask yourself, how highly would the committee put a 9 and 4 ACC champ Duke, who has not played a murderer's row of a schedule at all and has lost to Tulane and UConn and got smoked by Illinois? So they did nothing out of conference. They didn't accomplish anything out of conference, just happened to win their conference. That's the ACC Doomsday scenario. And the only hope there is maybe Miami grabbed an at-large spot. But Miami could drop a game too. Like Pitt loses to Notre Dame this weekend and then beats Miami. Very, very conceivable is my point. So, man, those two G5 teams making it in. You know how angry and irate people would be? Can you imagine Selection Sunday where a Power 4 conference is told, you're not in at all? We're taking 12 teams and you're not even your conference champ is good enough to make it. That, in the words of Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park, that is chaos. You don't have to live a chaotic life, at least when it comes to electricity, when it comes to power, you can always have it. And the city can either provide it to you or FlexPower can through a generator. Pate State runs on FlexPower portable generators. Some of you don't know that, but we do. Longtime friends of the show. These are people we deal with personally. These are people who watch the show, who listen to the show, who correspond with us regularly. So it's not some strange company in some strange land and they just paid us some money and we slap their logo on a monitor. That's not what this is. Candidly, that's not how any of our ad partnerships work. So FlexPower, in classic Pate State partnership fashion, has been asked to give away generators by me. I want to give away generators. And so they've said, hey, these things cost like $800. And I'm like, I know. And then they're like, okay, let's give some away. So we've actually had a couple of different ideas on how to give them away. Some of you have already taken me up on this. The one way, which I think is the easiest way, is just record a video, tell me why you need a free generator, and then post it on social. Use that hashtag FlexPowerFlex. We've gotten some good submissions already. You can do that. We're going to give one away each Sunday for the next 3 Sundays. Or you can go to myflexpower.com/Pate and you can just enter to win one in our November giveaway. So we're trying as best we can to give away some really, really high commodity FlexPower generators to you. We appreciate them generating the show. Like right now, Jesse, you couldn't even see me if not for a FlexPower generator. And you may think to yourself, oh man, if y'all were running that studio on a generator, I'd be able to hear it. Not those FlexPower generators. We're not really running the studio on a generator. But we could. That's the point. We could. Let's move on. Got a lot still to get to. Got Cubelic in the on-deck circle. He's just kind of warming up. Oh, he's got a donut on his bat. That's adorable. I promised you guys I was going to answer some questions on the show, and I'm going to answer some questions on the show. Matthew from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, hit us up. He said, how fast of a turnaround could LSU have if they hire the right coach? Pretty quick. You going to hire the right coach? I mean, before you hire the right coach, I got to know how the operation's working down there. I said the other night, and I took some criticism for it, the LSU search hasn't even had a chance to really get started because there's been a mess behind the scenes and the public spectacle of the lawsuit. I don't care who's suing who, by the way. That public spectacle is really ugly. It's a turnoff for prospective candidates. Guys, I'm not guessing on that stuff. I'm right on it. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just like spitting into the wind. Say, oh, I think I'll say this on the show tonight. So I am biased, pro LSU. So if anyone wants them to get their act together, I do. But you don't need to run to the message board and trash me just because I said something you don't like. You don't like that what was said was true. You should not like me. I'm just telling you the truth. So let's say they get their act together. I'm very hopeful they will. Look at my fingers crossed. I'm very hopeful they will. If they do, then yes, they could get turned around really quickly. Lane Kiffin, I know you see a lot of reporting on him. I know that there's a lot of speculation and this and that. Lane Kiffin, I think, will have an opportunity to have this job. That's what I think. I don't know that because no one from LSU has told me that. But I think he will. You get enough tea leaves sent your way that I think he will. Don't know if he's going to take it or not. Don't even know if he finds it the most desirable of the options that are going to be on the table for him. Let's just see how Ole Miss also chooses to handle Lane in the coming days. Because, I mean, I've got my theories on how I would handle it if I were Keith Carter, the AD there, which matters about as much as any other words coming out of my mouth. But if I were an AD, I got to have an answer, man. I can't just sit here and twist in the wind. So that matters. How LSU views Lane matters. How Lane views LSU matters. But whether it's him, whether it's Freeman, if you could get Freeman, that would be awesome. Or whether it would be John Sumrall or whoever it would be that's desirable enough to you. Just remember the rules here. The rules are, this is LSU. When it's operating functionally, it is among the best, if not the best jobs in college football. I believe that, and regardless of whether you believe it, believe me when I tell you many of the names on that list believe it, and many names that aren't on that list believe it. Like even guys who aren't interested in coaching in college would tell you, if I was interested in coaching in college, that's the job I'd want. So we don't have to doubt whether it's an unequivocal upgrade from the place most guys are at if all the alignment is there. That's the only obstacle here. The only obstacle is, in this day and age, in the modern day and age, it's not nearly as common sense a move to take the LSU job for guys that are in different positions than it used to be. It used to be you'd crawl over broken glass to go from having a job at Ole Miss to having a job at LSU or anywhere else. Now it's got to be an unequivocal upgrade. And if you don't have that alignment, there's all this infighting, perceptionally or in reality. If the political scene looks like it's a mess and you're the least bit worried about how it's going to play out down there, unlike years past, where you may bite the bullet on all that because of the resources LSU offers you in return, you probably got pretty good resources right now. If you're good enough for them to be offering you the job, you're probably at a place that you got pretty good resources at right now. So it's got to be an unequivocal upgrade. If it is that, if it has its affairs in order, yes, they can get that thing turned around. The other question I've had about this is, number one, it's all about the staff you bring in with you. That's with any head coach. I don't care who it is. I'm caring more about the staff than even I am the head coach. And then number two, there are some people already in the building down there that are among the best in the world at what they do. You could be talking about Blake Baker. That's the defensive coordinator. You could be talking about Austin Thomas, who's the general manager. There are a lot of people in that building that any coach would be very blessed to have working alongside him. But that's not always the way it works. Like I've watched many coaching changes. I watched when Brian Kelly came into LSU, and quite frankly, he flushed some people in that building just for the sake of flushing them. And it was, I thought, handled very poorly. And since then, a lot of people have complained about it. But I mean, when you come in the building, there's some good people who are told to look elsewhere sometimes. And that's fully the prerogative of the future head coach. I just think the guy who walks in at Florida is going to have it the same way. There's some really, really high-level superstar type people at Florida in their particular role that you might be best to just keep around. DeBoer did this some at Alabama. He brought in his, but he also kept some of those folks around. Why? Well, they were good enough to work for Nick Saban for a long time, so they're probably pretty good at what they do. Some of those people exist at LSU. So yes, like if you get the right guy, the right staff, the proper alignment, and the right people are kept on board and then meshed with the new people and new ideas that you bring in, yes, they could be right back to where LSU is supposed to be. Absolutely yes. There. I want to remind you of something, and then I want to tell you something. We're pretty deep into the show here. It's Thursday. So I always like to reward our Thursday crowd. Those are our diehards. I appreciate you guys. So I want to tell you a couple of things. Of course, the Pate State Store is rocking. We've had our best week ever on the Pate State Store. We've got our brand new 'Tis the Season line over there. Some of our first Christmas sweaters have started to arrive. So we put them on sale last week. They've started to arrive for people who ordered them. Haven't had a complaint. So PateStateMaterial.com. You'll see it as soon as you get there. But you know the other night, and this is the part where I want you to lean in. I want you to keep this amongst ourselves right now. You know the other night when I told you, I think we're going to have a live show. Can you imagine if we really did that, Jesse? If we really had a big live show? Let's just imagine to ourselves. It's, say, Atlanta, Georgia, the night before the SEC championship game in early December. And we have a big live show. Several friends of the show join us as guests. And we have it in a pretty sizable theater there in the Atlanta area. And let's just say that if you went to PateStateMaterial.com right now, there was a banner right up at the top where pre-sale was already available. Tickets were already available. Let's even say if you entered the promo code PATESTATE in all caps, no space, you got a discount on tickets. That would be crazy. It's all hypothetical. Just all hypothetical. Let's continue. Another good question here. I'm excited because I can take this question a couple of different directions. Benjamin from St. Hedwig, Texas said, who are your dark horse national champion contenders this postseason? Normally what this means is take a team that no one's talking about, like USC or someone like that, Utah. But I don't really have that, Benjamin. If you're talking about making the playoff, I could have those. I don't think this late in the season, when you've watched this many teams play this many games, that there's a team that you could never imagine winning the whole thing that's going to really go on to win the whole thing. Here's what I do think. We have two lanes right now when it comes to the playoff. Lane number one is a boring lane if you're not an Ohio State fan, and that is the lane where Ohio State really is as good as they look. Maybe they even get better. Maybe they even peak at the right time. If that's the case, Ohio State's going to win the national championship. Case closed. There are very few teams that can match up with them. Let's go the more exciting route. In the interest of, filling time here, creating something that's interesting to talk about, let's say Ohio State is still pretty good, but let's say they show some vulnerability, and let's say you end up looking at them come playoff time and saying, hey, Ohio State's good, but, I don't think of them the same way I thought of them a month ago. I've seen them bleed a little bit. I think they can be beaten. If we live in that world, which is the world I want to talk about here, how many teams could win the national championship? I'm going to talk to Cubelic about this in a little while. I want to get his take on it. I'm going to put some higher stakes on Cubelic than me. I'm just sitting here trying to have fun with this. But I went down the list right now. You see the odds to win the whole thing are on the screen right here. But I also have just the rankings in front of me. All right, so in the world where Ohio State's vulnerable, let's walk this through. Ohio State can certainly win it all, no matter what. Indiana, though, in that world, could win it all. That's a crazy sentence. Indiana, yes, is a contender to win the national championship. I know that we've gotten used to saying that this year. I'm still trying to get used to saying that, period. All right, so Ohio State and Indiana. Texas A&M, could they win the national title? Yes. Could Alabama win the national title? Yes. Could Georgia win the national title? Yes. So that's already 5. There have been years in the past where we couldn't even get that deep. So we're already at 5. Oregon, especially if they get healthy, yes for me. Notre Dame is a yes for me. Texas is a yes for me. Ole Miss, especially if they got the right matchups and they got hot, and we've seen Ohio State be vulnerable in this scenario, they're a yes for me. I think I counted 9 that I would put in there. I got to be honest with you. I skipped over Texas Tech. I still think if they have to win 3 games in a row and they're facing very, very equal, if not more talented rosters, and the staffs are really good, and quarterbacks eventually have to win you games in the playoff, I don't know that I elevate Texas Tech to that level. So I'd leave them just outside my bubble. Good team, though. I'm leaving Oklahoma just outside that bubble. But here's the thing. If we watch them play Bama Saturday and Mateer rounds into form again, like his pre-injury self, Oklahoma's 100% in this bubble. So can I have the right to reserve or reserve the right to change? There are no rules. We're making up the rules as we go. The answer is yes. Got Notre Dame in there. So my point is, we're sitting here with the second week in November. And if we just change one thing about the current state of the playoff, and that one thing is we make Ohio State vulnerable, we got like 10 teams that could win the whole thing. Now that is crazy, because I don't think we've ever seen a national championship picture that wide open. We've seen the playoff picture that wide open, not the national championship picture. Now I left out Miami, I left out USC. I still view them as being on the outside looking in, of being able to win 3 or maybe 4 games in a row in that setting if they need to. It's a feel thing. We could go down the list and break all the reasons down, but that's just, those teams were just on the outside looking in for me. So I don't have dark horses for you, but I do have a really, really wide net that I have to cast if you just change one perceptional, and that is that Ohio State's vulnerable. Academy Sports and Outdoors, not. They're always there. They're as consistent as can be. And again, in the interest of giving a lot of free stuff away, I am happy to inform you this Thursday evening that you need to check your email, because hundreds upon hundreds, I don't know, maybe over 1,000 of you signed up the other night to win the promo code. Well, that 20% off promo code, was it 20 or 10, Jesse? I think it was 20% off. 20% off, yeah. We went to Academy and said, it's getting to be Christmas time. A lot of people are shopping. Can we take 20% off of a bunch of folks' orders? And they said, yeah. So we gave 20 of you 20% off. Check your email. We have sent those promo codes out. And if you check your spam folder and there's something there from Freight's Pate State, that's not a Somali pirate, that's Jesse. That's Just Jesse is a great country song from the 90s. That's Jesse is the dude who sent you the email. So you might want to check it because it's worth a lot of money. Thank you, Academy. We move on. Let's see. I got one or two more things. Going to get some best bets. Then we're going to get Cubelic. Colson from Dallas, Texas hit me up. He said, give a breakdown on the show if you were the commissioner of college football and have a proposal for improving the officiating mechanism across the sport. We've heard your general issues with it, but give your formal pitch on how you would make it better. All right, here's what I would do. Do we all agree with Colson? I think we do, that officiating in college football leaves a lot to be desired right now. That doesn't mean every call is bad, not every game's bad, not every crew is bad. But in general, it's my opinion that there is really, really like an inexplicable amount of game-deciding bad officiating in college football right now. Most of you agree with that. Most of the officials would even agree with that, truth be told. So here's what I would do. I would get elected college football commissioner, and then I would try and do three things. The first one is I would nationalize officiating. It is the dumbest thing in the world to me that we have conference officials, especially when we play out-of-conference games in college football, and we also assign these officials to bowl games and playoff games. And so why would I have Big 12 officiating crews officiating South Carolina versus Illinois in a bowl game? It makes no sense. If we're going to have it officiated, why not have a top-to-bottom universal standard, which I'll get into in a second, and therefore I don't have to worry about any kind of rumor here or there, or any kind of stigma here or there. Well, that's an SEC crew. That's a Big 12 crew. It should be a college football crew. So that's the first thing I would do. And there's a lot that comes with that. I'll get to it in a second. Second thing, we're going to be fully transparent with our officiating process. I'll tell you why. Because we're not guarding state secrets here. We haven't discovered a cure for an infectious disease that we're trying to keep out of the hands of a foreign government. It's not that secretive. We're fighting over a football and trying to score more points than the other team, and people who are dressed like zebras are trying to make sure some rules of the game are enforced. It's utterly insane that we guard decisions and officiating in general behind this like impenetrable curtain. Players have to answer to the media when they screw up. Coaches have to answer to the media when they screw up. But the officials screw up and they jet out of town. Why? Well, the excuse that you're given is, well, they're just part-time. They're not even real full-time employees. Make them full-time employees then. I'll pay each of them. Well, I'll find some money. We'll round up some money. I'll pay each of them 6 figures per year. And therefore, it's fully rational and fair to hold them to the same standard that everybody else is held to when you're paid to do a job and you don't do it. Like, if you don't like it, quit. Coaches have this happen to them. Players have this happen to them. You do a good job, you get praised. You do a bad job, you get lit up. But officials, it almost turns up the heat more when something bad happens, there's an egregious call or a no call, you don't even get an answer. The closest you get to it is you're a fan and you're on your message board on Monday and you're like an Auburn fan, and Justin Hokanson has a news story where he reports that he hears Auburn coaches got feedback from the SEC that they messed up a call, according to sources. Like, what are we doing? So that's all scrapped, and we are going to have the white hat on the crew chief, made available to media after every college football game, and he's going to have to answer for the calls they made. He's not a part-time employee. He's a full-time employee. He's got salary. He's got benefits. He's living a good life on Sunday through Friday. He's going to feel the heat on Saturday. And you may think, oh, that makes an official's life miserable. You know what it would actually do? It would make the bad ones' lives miserable. The good ones would be fine. Here's what else would happen. I know this may come as a shock, but sometimes people complain about calls that were right. But it's never properly articulated to you that the call was right because the entire functionality of the call was never explained to you. The officials made the call. It may or may not have been articulated to the broadcast crew why the call was made. Therefore, the broadcast crew doesn't tell you on air why the call was made or what the call was. And then they're gone. They're in a van, police escort to the airport or the state line as soon as the game's over, and you don't hear anything. You know what it would mean for a white hat to stand in front of the media and get grilled about a missed call and then him be able to say, well, actually, here's what happened. Here was the procedure. Here's what we saw. Here's what the rule says. Here's how we interpreted that, and here's how we applied it. It would actually tamp down a lot of the noise because a lot of these calls are actually right, or at the very least, they're within the framework of judgment, at the very least, or at the very worst. Are there blown calls? Yeah. They're going to chase you anyway. You might as well not run. They chase far less if you don't run. What's the worst that could happen? You stand there and say, we may have messed that one up. We know you did anyway. It helps to hear it. Then it helps to hear maybe how you're going to make sure it doesn't happen moving forward. And then the third thing, which when I talk to officials is the most important thing, is I would standardize the rules. Like I said, I would have national officials instead of conference officials. And the reason that's so important is not just to remove the stigma of favoritism, one conference to the other, it's to standardize the enforcement procedure. Right now, the biggest hidden mess in college football officiating is Conference USA officials are told to emphasize things that Big Ten officials are not. And Big Ten officials hold the flag on things that SEC officials throw the flag for. It's so stupid. It's the stupidest problem to have. It's so easily preventable, but you have these silos that exist because it's kind of political and there's a lot of power in the vacuum. And so you've got these conference heads of officials that in some cases hate each other. So they have their own little fiefdoms, and the only authority they have in life is that they oversee officiating at the league level in the Sun Belt or the ACC or whatnot. I'm not even speaking about anyone in particular. I'm just randomly pulling conference names out of thin air. It's so stupid that that exists. If you rebuilt college football today, you would never build it like that. So why does it exist like that right now if you would never build it like that? And then I would calibrate the hiring process where it's pure meritocracy, and I couldn't care less if I have 15 people all from Macon, Georgia. If they're the best officials in the country, they're going to officiate, and they're going to lead crews all across the country. You could be a guy, you could be a girl. If you're getting my calls right, you're going to be on the crews, and the ones who screw up, I don't care what their last names are, I don't care what boxes they check, they're sitting at home because it's too important. And there's too much of your money on the line. The Ramen Noodle Express's money is on the line. A coach's salary is on the line. A player's NIL dollars are on the line. The integrity of the game is on the line. Sorry. If you want to go work as an intern for the summer at your dad's construction company, some nepotism is okay there. We can't have it when it comes to officiating. And if that's a controversial stance, it's just a controversial show. Jesse, let's save the freight's origin for another night. I will tell you that FanDuel is the exclusive odds provider of the show. We can confirm that. Sources are confirming that. There's a lot to see at FanDuel right now. If you go over there, I, for instance, went there earlier this week and I bet some money on Marcel Reed to win the Heisman. Bet $100. Why? I don't need $100. I already have $100. I say that line often. And every time I say it, someone hits me up and says, why do you keep saying that? It's a line from The Office. I don't need $645. I already have $645, more or less. So I did bet Marcel Reed to win the Heisman. I love the odds. I got him at plus 850. You don't have to go do that. You could go look if you don't want to bet. If you do want to bet, you go bet Ty Simpson. You can go bet Julian Sayin. Jeremiah Love would have been my next pick. I don't think, ironically, he's getting enough love. But you also got all the games there. You can go to FanDuel right now. And two things. Number one, if you're a new sign-up, you could sign up FanDuel.com/Josh Pate or use that QR code. You can bet $5. If you win whatever you bet the 5 on, you get $150 in bonus bets just for signing up. It's a great deal. The second thing you can do is go to the college football tab, the NCAA football tab. And we have our own area, the Josh Pate tab. That's where the Ramen Noodle Express picks are. It's right there. There's a picture of it. That's what it looks like. And momentarily, I will add another pick on the Ramen Noodle Express. So just if you miss the show and like you're right pressed, last minute, games are about to kick off, I just want to go bet the Ramen Noodle Express picks. They'll all be right there. but don't miss the show. All right, before we get Cubelic in here, here's what we're on. We got Coastal Carolina plus 2.5 earlier this week. We got Alabama minus 5.5 earlier this week. And we got UAB plus 18.5 earlier this week. Now, those are the three that we've been on so far. I'm about to add one here. Florida Atlantic is going to Tulane. They're getting a lot of points, plus 17.5. There's a lot of noise about John Sumrall, and all they need to do is win. They don't need to cover. So I think it may be about a field goal too much to give FAU. Bad team, but not terrible. So we'll take FAU plus 17.5. That's only 4. I'll probably add another half dozen on Friday Night Lines tomorrow night. So make sure you are following at Josh Pate CFB on Twitter or Instagram. That is where Friday Night Lines will emanate from Athens, Georgia Live tomorrow night. And with that, host of Cube Show, founder of Cube Show, to be found on YouTube, nearing 20,000 subscribers. Sideline for SEC Network. Does a lot. Does some radio in Birmingham Monday through Friday with good friend of the program, Greg McElroy. Which game do you have this weekend?
Mississippi State at Missouri. Tuesday Date Night Podcast also.
Yeah, Tuesday Date Night Podcast also. Scaling, as they say in the industry.
I keep getting in trouble that you don't promote that. So it's not I'm just trying to make the wife happy. That's it.
Yeah, I saw the missed call log. Tuesday Date Night Podcast is actually the first product that you put out that I listen to every week. So I'm well aware of Tuesday Date Night Podcast. I am, in fact, being pressured to emulate Tuesday Date Night Podcast, not in title, but in concept, with someone in my apartment hold. And I don't want to be specific and name names as to who, but there is someone who wants me to traffic in that concept. So will I be
Podcast with a puppy
you?
would be... Podcast with a puppy would be really hard. I don't even know why you would consider that.
Yeah, so. Pod with a pup, mainly for the acronym.
So if you hold on, if you listen, let me ask: sleep, sheets tucked in mattress, under feet, or feet out of sheets at night?
Feet very much out of sheets. It's the first task.
No
when
matter
I walk
what
in a
the
hotel
temperature.
Room. Yeah, no, I don't care. It's a big fight. It's a big point of contention. To me, that's how you gauge the quality of a hotel. People rate hotels 3-star, 4-star, 5-star based on cleanliness, based on whether or not you get a continental breakfast and all this other stuff. And I'm like, how hard is it to remove the sheets from being tucked? Because like some of those maids tuck those sheets all the way to the other end of the earth, and you're done.
No, it's yeah. Well, my wife has a militant sheet tuck, and I need my sheets under my feet at night. So that's every evening. I'm almost tearing the ACL, kicking the sheets up, and she's just like, "What are you doing? Just let it go." Yeah. I'm like, "I got to get them under."
If you've ever even mildly hurt yourself doing something that is in line with adjusting sheets, it's a bad feeling. It's really, really a sledgehammer to the pride. But then you realize, I'm not arguing about this. This is a non-negotiable, like breathing oxygen or drinking water. We're going to have the sheets untucked and under the feet. And since you're 4'7", you don't have to worry about that. But if you're of the height that can ride roller coasters at Six Flags, it can be a little bit of an issue. Okay, that's a paper stacker there. We move on. We were just having this conversation earlier, so I wanted to get your thoughts on this. I'm going to put higher stakes on you than I put on myself. So there is a world, of course, where Ohio State is every bit as legit as they look, and maybe they'll be the favorite to go on and win the title. Maybe they'll win the title. But that's not fun for anyone who's not an Ohio State fan to talk about in November. So let's say that we were to rub the magic 8 ball and we get truth spilled to us, and it's just known truth. Ohio State's pretty vulnerable. They can be beaten just like everyone else. They're just one of the teams in the pack right now. They happen to be number 1. If I were to tell you that's the reality, and I told you, you have to create your championship bubble. You can put as many teams in it as possible that you think can win a national championship. You're trying to put as few teams in there as possible, but if you leave someone out of the bubble that ends up winning the championship, you die. How many teams are in your bubble? Yeah, no, it's not lack of
We're not
pizza.
giving up ice cream for a year or anything. We're going straight to the coffin here.
No,
Got it.
You're dead. You are Undertaker in the ground.
All right, we're leaving this thing small. What is my reward for the smaller it is? Do I get like extra years on my life?
I don't know. I know that's what she said. Okay. I don't know what the reward is. I know you get to live. You do get to live.
Fair enough. And that's a pretty big bonus.
And I'll get you credentialed to the national championship game so you get to watch the game that you predicted in your little bubble.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Indiana's obviously going to be in there.
Right.
Balanced on offense, elite quarterback play. efficient offense, enough on defense to be able to be disruptive and I think go win a game if they had to. Texas A&M obviously is going to be there. There are some flaws I think you could bring up that you may be slightly concerned about. Some people are just going to point to rushing yards allowed. I look at that more as when you have a high impact, high risk defense and you understand going in that you're going to take these chances, you're going to get hit with some bigger plays. I'm not overly concerned about that. They can pressure the quarterback. They can beat you on the ground, through the air with high percentage throws, and obviously a mobile quarterback as well. Alabama is there, an offense that does everything, a defense that's still morphing this late in the season. Josh, they dropped 8 last week, 23 times, I believe, in that game against LSU. The front moved on run stunts and pressures more than I've seen them move all season, so they're still morphing and changing. They're going to be there. Georgia's going to be there. Similar boat to Alabama. Offense does absolutely everything. I think the offensive line is going to continue to grow. By the time they get to second, third round of the playoffs, that could be an O-line that they just lean on and just hammer people. It's been inconsistent through the course of the year, but it could be really good as we get through there later. I almost feel obligated to throw Texas Tech in here because of some injuries, bouncing back and forth between some guys. There's been a little bit of consistency that wasn't there at one point, but I think they have explosive capabilities on offense, and they have a defensive line that can take over a game. And those are two qualities that I think you have to have right now to go win a national championship. It's why I would have Ole Miss there. Ole Miss is going to be able to do multiple things offensively to generate points, to stress your offense and defense. And they do not get enough credit for how good they are up front defensively between Eccles, Franklin, and what they have Perkins on the edge to do different things. I don't love the second and third levels as much as I have in the past, third level specifically, but they have enough to disrupt up front. Oregon is obviously their high-profile quarterback in Dante Moore with an offensive line. It's a semifinals for the Joe Moore Award. They can push you around for the most part and then have speed on the outside. The defensive line also disruptive. Notre Dame is still there. I think can control the line of scrimmage. It'll be a different style game for them if they go win it, but I couldn't leave them out just because defensively they have a chance to be elite and one that can go take over games. And now it starts to get, I think, a little bit tricky because I look at Oklahoma and Texas and I want to put them both in. I think Oklahoma's ceiling is a little bit higher than the Texas ceiling because John Mateer can just be that much more special, I think, than maybe anybody not named Ryan Wingo on the Texas offense. Is the offense going to be able to operate that way? There are some defenses that can mitigate that, limit what he's able to do by either caging him in the pocket, utilizing spy or spies, plural, like we've seen Ole Miss do at times with Pete Golding this year. And then defensively, if something happens and they take that Texas game plan into a postseason game and decide not to move as much, I think other teams could find the way to generate some offense. I don't have Texas in. I don't. And listen, Colin Simmons can take over a game. I love Trey Moore. I love Ethan Burke. I think Hill is maybe the best off the ball linebacker in college football. The offense has been too inconsistent. I don't know if you're going to be able to generate these explosives and make people miss and get in the open field and create explosive plays. I do think it's gotten better, but if we're talking about a playoff run against these other teams that we've mentioned, I don't think I'm going to have the Longhorns there, and I think I'll probably cut my list off there as well.
All right, so you're a no on USC, right?
Correct.
All right, I am too. I'm about to add one more rule, so stay tuned. Are you a no on Miami?
Unfortunately, yes, and it's consistency only. It is not big-time talent. It is not the ability to own the line of scrimmage. I think they can do that on both sides of the ball. Consistency, decision-making by Carson Beck, which consistently has not been great. Have big play capabilities on the perimeter. Love to run around and hit people, but just have not seen it week in, week out the way that I would need you to believe that you're going to run through the college football playoff and win all those games.
Utah, I assume, no.
There's a lot to like. What they rely on offensively, I think, would be a little bit easier to take away, even with Spencer Fano and a really physical offensive line. Devin Dampier, to me, just ad-libs a little bit too much, waits, holds the ball a little bit too long. I think that'll have a chance to get them in trouble in one of those games we're referencing on the way to a national championship.
All right, I forgot to tell you this is competitive. So the reason you have to make your bubble as small as possible is because if anyone else, in this case my bubble, ends up being smaller than yours, you also die. So I have to inform you, in the interest of fairness, I have one fewer teams in my bubble than you do right now. Are you interested?
Can I guess the team you left out?
Go ahead.
It's not Texas Tech because we know you fell in love with Lubbock last weekend, and the things you've been saying about that place, you would never do such a thing to that football team. But I will go Oklahoma. I think you left Oklahoma out, and they are on my list.
I left Oklahoma out, but I have Texas in. So we canceled each other out there. I left Texas Tech out. Number one, because Lubbock's not playing in the playoff game. Texas Tech is. And number two, they're playing the game in Miami and not Lubbock. So I think quarterback would end up getting them in trouble in one of these bigger games. I don't think that they could push the ball enough. I think, and you remember, you got to win 3 of them minimum. So you've got to stack those games on top of each other. I'm willing to bet against them doing that consistently enough where I can eliminate them and make my bubble smaller.
See, I like your mission accomplished by teeing me up to look bad in front of certain fan bases. So I wanted to make my tee higher than yours after all the placating you did to Texas Tech fans and get it right there on top of that tee for you to just knock them off. And they realize that that belief is just not there.
Yeah, what's crazy is how vastly you underestimate my ability to seamlessly transition into taking credit for motivating a team and then be right back into good graces with that fan base. You really underestimate my ability to do that.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, it is the nature of
Good
a chameleon. All right, well, our bubbles are set.
I have not mastered that because, trust me, the fan bases that don't like me, it has been years,
It's
and they
crazy.
still hate me. So
You even name squirrels after yourself on various campi. You pay the money for it out of your own pocket, and they still hate you.
we tried.
Man. All right, here we go. By the way, we got a couple of games coming up this weekend. I did want to remind everyone, because we get DM'd about this, yes, we still have the SeatGeek promo code. Yes, you can go to SeatGeek right now. We're going to talk about OU Bama in just a second. Are tickets available? No, it's sold out. But wait, they are, because you can go to SeatGeek right now and you can purchase them. You can sit in the uppers, you can sit in the lowers. You can do the same thing over at Georgia when they play Texas. You can go to Mississippi State. You can go wherever you want to. Go to SeatGeek. And right before you check out, where it says promo code there, if you feel like saving money, just enter PATE10, PATE10, and that's going to get you 10% off your order up to $200. And anything over $200, well, I mean, we're not psychopaths around here. We can't give you unlimited 10% off. What we would do is we would just give you $20 off any purchase over $200. So I know you guys are going to the games anyway. Go to SeatGeek, get your tickets there, PATE10, 20% off at checkout. All right. Bring him back, Jesse. You want tickets, by the way? You need tickets to anything? I don't think you do. I know how you roll.
I think I got a credential Saturday night. If not, Josh Maxson's going to be in some trouble.
Yeah. What's the last sporting event you paid to go to?
Ooh.
What a
probably
privileged pause there.
A Braves baseball game 2 summers ago against the Nats. Nats won 3-2.
Yeah. In extras or just in 9?
No, it was regular 9.
Okay. I went to Braves Mets in 1993 and saw Jeff Blauser hit a home run, but still lose to the Mets in 10. So that was my Fulton County Stadium only experience there, I think.
Was that Piazza?
No, he was not there
Mets.
yet. He
I
was
don't care about
there.
Braves
He was in
players.
L.A. He was in L.A. at that time.
Gotcha.
Good solid player. All right, here we go. Oklahoma, Alabama. I am very nervous about because I've exposed myself because I went Alabama to win. I went Alabama pretty solidly. Now, it could go way sideways with turnovers, as most any game can. I'm going to count on Ty Simpson being able to operate that offense like he pretty much has done all year, absent a traditional ground game. People keep throwing the OU run defense in my face. I have this like twisted view on this game where I would be more concerned about it if rushing was a more integral part of Bama's offensive profile. It's already not. You've done a great job on this show when you've come on it, documenting how they do accomplish what is the equivalent of running the ball. They just do it different than here, run through the B gap. They don't do it that way, but they still accomplish it. So I watched Ole Miss play Oklahoma. I watched Tennessee play Oklahoma. Those are the two passing attacks I would most readily compare to what Alabama can throw at you. Both of them were 320 or greater through the air, I think. So I trust that to manifest itself into some offensive production for Alabama. I also go back and watch the LSU game, which I know you have several times, and you just look at how many missed opportunities there were in explosive plays downfield by like fingertips, just by inches here or there. So I just imagine the focus on precision, the focus on accuracy, the focus on execution in route running and throwing the ball this week. For some reason, I really think it manifests itself in one of their most complete-looking finals on the scoreboard this week. So I think they're going to win, and it's not like some blowout or anything like that. But I think they'll win. I think they'll cover that 5.5. I actually think they're going to win the game by 10 or more. How wrong or right do you think that is?
I think you're probably wrong in thinking that it's going to be a big win. There are a lot of things that could be problematic for Alabama in this game, but there are not a lot of other things that I think Oklahoma can do to, say, extend the lead or just walk past Alabama in this game. I love the Alabama defense being able to do some different things than they were doing 6-7 weeks ago. I think some of those can actually help against John Mateer. I love, like, say, Jordan Jefferson at linebacker and his ability to run, how fast he is, being able to utilize him as somebody who sort of just negates what John Mateer can do on the ground. We say spy all the time, and it doesn't always work, but understand, you go back and watch Lenore Sellers against Ole Miss. Pete Golding did something I'm not sure I've ever seen. He had double spies for a lot of the game. And I don't think people oftentimes, Josh, see the fact that even though the spy doesn't make the tackle, there were multiple instances, Roman and I talked about this on Read and React, where you see Lenore Sellers kind of start to tuck the ball and look to run. You can see his helmet turn, and he sees that guy 4 or 5 yards off the ball, off the line of scrimmage, and he immediately turns to go a different direction. Like, spies can operate in that instance as well, where you're just a deflector to be able to get the quarterback to leave the pocket a different way so he doesn't have those direct north-south runs when he decides to tuck the ball and run, which is usually when they're most dangerous. You don't want John Mateer to be able to do that. If he wants to run 360s around the pocket, try to go back and forth and zigzag, great, because the longer that lasts, the more likelihood it is that it's going to be a play that goes into your favor. To the rushing yards, it was interesting. You said people are giving you the rush defense numbers for Oklahoma, to which everybody tells me that the earth's falling in, going to cave in for Alabama because they can't find ways to run the football. When you do all the other things as well as Alabama does, I think it offsets a little bit of that. The good news for Alabama is where Oklahoma is most problematic is between the tackles and off tackle, and depending on the health of our Mason Thomas, may not be as effective off tackle as they have been. They can work their way around all of that. Quick throws on the perimeter. They're great with the screen game against LSU. You saw Cuevas on a little quick dump up the seams to the tight end. You have receivers that can hurt you down the field. Ty Simpson loves to work the middle of the field. And as busy as Oklahoma is, adding defenders to the box, utilizing numbers in the box to take away the run or pressure, there will be spots over the middle of the field that are open for him. This will come down to the Alabama offensive line just keeping him clean. If they can keep defenders off of him and escape a sack fumble, strip sack for a touchdown, a hit that sort of deflects the ball up in the air and Oklahoma can intercept it, because I still don't know how good or great the Oklahoma secondary is. The defensive tackles are incredible. The edge defenders are really good. The linebackers can fly. The secondary hasn't had a ton of true tests this year because that group has been so good. So if Alabama can utilize quick game, quarterback run, a little bit of run game here and there, keep them off balance, force them to sort of calm things down as much as possible, that's the recipe for Bama to go win this game. Now, I will say this, offensively, Oklahoma's kind of finding their way a little bit. The last 2-3 games, hat on a hat with that offensive line, finding some space in the run game. This is a little bit of a different group. I think they're going to be playing from a front seven perspective, but if they lean on that and it starts to go, and I'm not talking 20, 30-yard clips or 20 carries for 218 yards, they just need to be in 2nd and 6. They need to be in 3rd and 4s. And with John Mateer's ability to move around, if they can do those things, I think Oklahoma can maintain possession. Then it could end up being a long day for Alabama, but have to have those 1st and 2nd downs go first consistently if Oklahoma's going to find a way to be competitive or win this football game.
Have you done an Oklahoma game this year?
No.
Yeah. So have you not watched Mateer from field level, right?
Not in person. I met him at media days, but I haven't seen him play in person.
I remember I sent you that video from the Michigan game when we were there, and like everyone was making a big deal about Mateer's release point and how crazy it was and how low it was. Now they were using that to like disqualify for him from any legit conversation, which I thought was dumb. I bet him to win the Heisman, so obviously I was high enough on him. Then he got hurt, and he hasn't really been the same since. But to my knowledge, like I'm trying to think back, has there been that Oklahoma game where they're like 4 or 5 balls batted? It just becomes a chronic issue in game. It may have happened, and I don't recall it, But I keep also waiting for that game because when I sent you that video, it is so glaring. When you're standing there and you watch how different the ball comes out of his hand, how much lower the release point is. And the video I sent you, I did it on purpose because you're looking at, it looks like a squirrel weaving his way through trees to watch the football weave its way through, extended arms of defenders. Now, it doesn't matter if no one gets a hand on it. But as much as I'm concerned about, what if this defensive pressure? What if Bama's offensive line can't hold up? What if Mr. One interception all year, Ty Simpson, has 2 of them in the first half? As much as I think about that, I keep thinking about the same thing with him, and I think about how opportunistic Bama's defense has been. I think you got a top 10 turnover ratio team here against 1 in the 100s. And the 1 in the 100s is the road team, I think we said the other night. So that's the other thing I think about with Mateer. And then the third thing I was going to ask you about, because you kind of mentioned Justin Jefferson, and you mentioned the role he could play in this game. Bray Hubbard got like one of the Player of the Week honors in the SEC, which is just wild.
He was great last week.
Yeah, you think about how we were talking about him after week 1, though. Think about if you were to have fast-forwarded and you showed yourself a glimpse of mid-November, and this is how we're going to be talking about the Bama defense, and individually, this is how we were going to be talking about this player or that player. Oh, by the way, Rousseau is going to be out. So they're going to lose him for a little while, and that's still going to be the state of that defense. How surprised are you at where they are right now relative to how they started the season?
The only reason I'm not is because we had the ULM game. And we got to go in that facility. We got to talk to Kalen DeBoer, talk to Kane Womack. I spent a lot of time with David Ballou, the strength coach, that weekend, talking to him at practice and hearing everybody's message be exactly the same. That came out of nowhere. We had the best offseason from a weight room perspective, nutrition perspective. We had the best 2-a-days. They don't do 2-a-days anymore, but the best fall camp. We had the most physical camp we've had. Everything was the most and the best, and it was completely unexpected. And having known Kalen for a while, I didn't think he was lying to me. Having known Coach Womack for a while, I didn't think he was lying to me. Having known Grubb for a little bit, I didn't think he was lying to me. I've known Ballou for a while. He wouldn't lie to me. So that's forced me to kind of take a step back and say, all right, we need to give them a chance to right this, because if it was that wrong based on what the whole staff thought they were going to get, and Josh, most staffs know what they have. Mm-hmm. They might not want to admit it, and they might lie to themselves every single day until it's all over with and they're fired. But that staff did not think that was feasible to put that kind of performance out there. So I kind of said to myself, we need to give them a chance. We need to give them a second, take a step back. We weren't going to take a ton away from the ULM game, but they responded. So that was job number 1. Came back, put it on the way they were supposed to, handled their business. Then I said, all right, now we're about to learn what this team really is. They have my attention again. Let's at least see what it is from here on out. So from that perspective, I'm not overly surprised. I think I'm just more surprised that we have outliers all the time in this sport, individual position groups, teams. We always have those funky losses, or an offensive line that just lets guys run through like a turnstile, or DBs that get smoked throughout the course of the game. We have it all the time. So I'm more surprised that it was that week 1. But again, this is where the retraining of the brains still needs to come around and happen, because week 1 is going to be a lot different for so many teams moving forward. There are these guys in this locker room that have known each other for 4 or 5 weeks, not played football together. Like, they probably don't know each other's names when they're lining up next to them in an actual football game. So that takes your continuity away, the feel, the chemistry, the rhythm. Then all of a sudden, if you're getting different looks on defense, and the guy that I thought I was going to be IDing in the mic is not even in the game, and they're running a totally different front than we prepared for, all of a sudden that changes in a hurry. So I'm more surprised that it was that much of an outlier than I am that they've been able to bounce back, only because I had those conversations.
It's crazy also the ingredients that only the season can give you. And I could just as easily, we may end up saying this about Indiana last week against Penn State. You could practice as well as you possibly could. You could lift as well, eat as well as you possibly could. There may, for all you know, be an ingredient that it's mandatory the season provides you. Could be a loss, could be a close win, but it's what you get out of that ingredient that you could never have replicated. You go in Alabama's building now. Like I've asked several of their guys point blank, do you think you would be remotely the team you are without the FSU outcome? Every one of them says no. No, didn't know we needed that. Certainly didn't hope we needed that. But as it turns out, there's an edge here now I don't think we would have had. Try as we might, we probably would not have had that without the Florida State game. my thinking there is, okay, who else do I apply that to during the season? And it may be Indiana. It may be that Indiana's sitting there in the national championship game and they've won 3 back-to-back-to-back close games to get there. And you're like, wow, would we have been able to do that without that Penn State game, which people called a weakness? They called a flaw at the time.
Why do we outweigh that, though, by how incredible it was for Indiana to come back and win that game?
I don't know.
Like, why do we outweigh the closeness of it against a lower tier opponent, which that should even be an outlier in and of itself? It's kind of like playing, for SEC fans, that would be like playing a close game against LSU or Florida right now. Like, yeah, they fired their coach, but let's go through the litany of first-round draft picks that they have on their rosters. It's a lot of them, combined especially. So you don't think talent can catch up with you consistently on a regular basis? Like I do. It's not going to happen every week because we don't know where their brains are. And we don't know if they're mad, happy, sad, want to leave, don't like the fact that their coach got fired, elated that their coach got fired. We never know what that is. Penn State still has talent at the end of the day. That environment is still very difficult to go play in, no matter what. But we outweigh that by the ifs, ands, buts, ors of, why didn't they go in there and win by 40? What's wrong with them? What's their problem? How many teams in that spot could have done what that team did, specifically taking a sack on first down of that 2-minute drive? That's the part that nobody's talking about. Josh, you know how many teams on a 2-minute drive, 90-something yards to go win the game, back against the wall, hadn't done anything all day, that take a sack on first down, like, done.
Yeah. Take away the best wide receiver.
You're not coming back from that. You're just not.
One more game I wanted to get to here. Texas got 2 shots at Georgia last. Sorry, Bradley. I'll give you a chance to change the lower. There we go. Texas got 2 shots at Georgia last year. Went 0-2, had 60 combined rushing yards in the process. And the latter of which was the conference title game, and they got beat by a backup quarterback in come-from-behind fashion in the second half. That backup is now Georgia's starter. Really interested to see how you see this game. I had several reasons that my mind wanted me to take Texas, had some reasons why the model wanted me to take Texas. In the interest of Georgia playing all these one-possession games, who knows? If I had to bet the game against the spread, may even take Texas plus the points because it just has 24-21 written all over it to me. But at some point, man, I almost have the tendency to zoom out on games like this. I'll leave it to you to talk about all the matchups. Like, I'll leave it to you to point out specific players. My nature is, if you're Texas or Georgia, you get to decide how you play. You get to decide the offense and defense you run because you get your choice of athletes to do whatever you want to. You get to staff however you want because you got the biggest staff pools in the country. You have endless resources. So the way you're doing it is the way you would do it if you could do it anyway. This is the way Georgia chooses to do it. This is the way Texas chooses to do it. So it's almost like a culture test, like a culture game. It's like a program game every time this stuff happens. So Georgia's run up against Bama and had trouble. Texas, now I'm watching them run up against Georgia. Smaller sample size, but they've had trouble. And so I had someone ask me earlier this week, well, who do you think Texas is? I just paused for a second because I could answer that about Kirby and Georgia. I've long since been able to answer that. How do I answer that? As we get into the game breakdown here, how do you answer, what is Texas under Steve Sarkisian to you? Because I think the data is still incomplete. Or maybe like to get to the finished version of the answer, you have to be on the right side of outcomes like this eventually.
And I think they can be because the talent has the ceiling for them to be. This comes down to consistency again. And last year's team was very consistent at doing things when asked to do them inside of that system allows them to win games. Take a swing pass in the flat, take a crossing route, take a toss sweep or an outside zone to the running back. Making 2-3 defenders miss instead of going for 4 yards, it's 24 yards or 44 yards. There's a small amount of games that Texas has done that consistently this season. I've told you, you go back and put the UTEP game on, it's the best individual tackling performance still that I have seen in college football this year. The amount of one-on-one tackles that were made against Texas ball carriers, it didn't feel like it was real. It felt like it was CGI when I was watching it. You put the Vanderbilt film on, and all of a sudden 5 guys can't get 1 guy down. And I don't know exactly where that comes from or how that's derived or what makes one or not the other. Playing together, understanding angle system, just having done it before. Ryan Wingo looked like Superman last week. If he looks like that again, Texas is probably going to win this football game. I think this will come down to a couple of things. Number one for me, I like how you sort of leveled this game out, like went back to an elementary floor level with this game, because I agree that a lot of that is what it's going to be. Last year, Texas basically ran into a team that said, we're about to see what you're about. Like, do you have the S about you that we know we do? Because we're going to put it on display and we're going to test yours. And I don't think Texas had it. I really don't. Do they have it this year? If they do, they'll play with them. It'll be a competitive game. And at that point, it comes down to some schematic things and maybe a mistake or two. But Texas has to prove that to me first. This kind of is, it's not as elementary or floor ground level. When I was in college, my offensive line coach, Rick Trickey, used to go to the whiteboard in certain games like this. And he would say, them's La Tech, use Auburn. And he would circle Auburn. He's like, where's Auburn? You win this game. And like, that was it. That was how he broke the game down. I wish it would have been that easy. It wasn't always that easy. But this game, to me, starts out being simplified to that level. Will Texas match the grit, the physicality? Are they hard enough to be able to go out and win this game? Ultimately, I think that's what it comes down to. Because if they're not that, Josh, they don't have a chance to win this game. If they are, then we can talk about the lost players on offense like a Dylan Bell or a Jack Injuries, because so many other guys are going to get so much attention and they're going to have their chances to make some plays. And if they make big plays, they'll be able to do that. And offensive line being able to pick up Colin Simmons or being able to pick up Georgia pressures, all those things come into play after that. But if Texas isn't that, there's really not a lot else for us to talk about as far as this game's concerned.
Yeah. The other thing, I've listened to a lot of folks out of Georgia talk about trying to manufacture as best you can this late in the season some kind of pass rush. It's been very, very well documented how much they've struggled in that category this year. Now, to their credit, they've kind of resurrected their ground game. I think they were 24th in the country coming into this week. I know it's very, very not in vogue to give Mike Bobo credit for anything, but, you know, maybe a little crumbs worth of credit to him and that offensive staff. But with Georgia, all right. So anytime you go to a place like Georgia, you see these young guys walking around the building that you know are not going to be ready to go week one. But you always think to yourself, all right, not every one of these guys is going to redshirt. So some of them are just going to randomly pop on my screen, usually on special teams, week 3, week 4. Then some injuries happen, or maybe you're just not performing up to expectation and they get in the rotation against a team they're up by 35 against. And then all of a sudden, Texas comes to town and some young kid ends up in the backfield, and you're like checking your play card to make sure you've got the name and the number right. I always think about that possibility. What Yanze Pierre's been doing this year, not a freshman, but all of a sudden just kind of coming on and doing what he was projected to do out of high school. Georgia's got those guys too. I just wonder, like from a ground level, when you're sitting in a defensive staffing room and you're trying to throw everything against a wall saying, guys, we're not going to lead the SEC in sacks this week. Let's not even pretend we have that high-level capability. How do we do more than we're doing right now? What are some simple steps they can take here, if they can take any at all?
The first thing I thought of is, man, this happened a week early for Georgia, and it was number 10 at tight end last week. And you're just like, hold on a second. Who is that, and where has he been? He looks like he's an NBA small forward out here in pads, knocking people down on the goal line, catching balls over in midair over to the sideline, tiptoeing before he goes out of bounds. Like, that shouldn't be allowed at his size to be that athletic and that fast. As far as the pass rush is concerned, there are ways to generate it. And one of the reasons I'll always give Georgia an advantage to be able to find it is the precision in which they run their pressures. A great example of that, a great counter to that would have been Mississippi State last week and what they attempted to do to Georgia. A lot of their 3-man games, a lot of their 2-man pressures, very wide around the penetrators that were trying to basically clog up space and allow for a gap or an alley for them to be able to run through. That thing would come around the tackle instead of just hugging that butt cheek of that defensive tackle right over the guard. And so when you do that, you obviously give the quarterback more time to operate. There is, I guess, less selfishness and more precision with the way Georgia runs their pressures than almost any other team in college football. They know how to operate it, and they don't do it for themselves. You can tell they understand the assignment, and it is to either occupy these 2 offensive linemen or keep this offensive lineman from being able to get into this gap. And they do it well because they play fierce football with authority. So the individuals might not be there, but the way in which they do it, and I will say Texas is a team that relies a lot on 2 things, pull protection and slide protection. Those are gettable Because if you're trying to pull an offensive lineman around to one, pick up an edge dude for me coming off the edge. That's where Jalen Walker got him a couple of times last year. And when you pull that backside guard on that, the center and the tackle then have to close two gaps. Again, that takes time, and that's a lot of space that is created for a short amount of time. You can attack that. You want to slide the protection. All of these D coordinators have ways figured out how to get past that, to occupy offensive linemen, and you're not going to have somebody in the gap when you retrace a defender back over where they should have been because they're playing like robots and only going to one spot. So I would say the pressures that they're going to draw up, the precision in which they will run them, and the authority in which they will run them with almost takes away the personnel part of it, because Georgia's been that good at that part for so long. They still have a chance to find a way to get home by doing those things.
Now I want you to tell the people how to find Cube Show.
Lost in Space. There is a podcast that talks about SEC football every Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. It all depends on FAA flight regulations and flights getting canceled. It depends on flights being moved up. It depends on Read and React on Mondays and how many games we have to watch on Sunday. But it is called Cube Show. It is right here on YouTube. We are closing in on 20,000 subscribers, to which some guy said that we needed to throw that in your face. And I just laughed because I feel like you're pushing people there on a weekly basis, which we appreciate. But we're getting there. We're just this little old startup podcast trying to make some noise. We watch the film of every SEC game and we tell you what you see. It's all we do. Facts and opinions. It's the only things we have.
It's the only things we have. It's the only things we need. Cube Show. CUBESHOW. Space in between, though. It's Cube Show. And you can find it, and it's free. And you should subscribe there, just like I hope, fingers crossed, that you guys have done here. All right, have fun. I'll talk to you probably like 19 times between the next time you're on the show. So pick up, please.
What time is Friday Night Lines? I need to get back in there with some of my questions.
It's a great question. It's a great question. So we'll be down in Athens. I'm going to go down there tomorrow, actually. So we'll be down there tomorrow. Depending on how long I hang around with Scott Sinclair in the weight room, we will get out of there. We will probably do it at like halftime of the night games, like we did last week. I'm thinking. As you know,
Friday night games too.
Yeah, as you know, you can follow on Instagram, Josh Pate CFB, and I'll let you know for sure. But yeah, I haven't made my mind up.
People need to know what's happening with Merrimack and Coast Guard, and you refuse to acknowledge those games.
Coast Guard. What offense does Coast Guard run? It's Service Academy, Coast Guard. Space Force have a team yet? I don't think Space Force has a team yet.
Looking into it, struggling with the NIL. Can't get that going just yet.
Well, I don't even know that Navy and Air Force have been able to play.
I think gravity's holding them back, honestly, from being able to go hurry up, no huddle offense. Yeah. But other than that,
all right, we got dinner to eat, so we got to go. Peace out.
Okay, thank you.
And that's a wrap for us. Remember, just subscribe to the channel. Do it with Cubelix. Do it with mine. You're already here. You have the added benefit. It's a home game. You're already here if you're watching our show. But really, in all sincerity, we appreciate you guys. You've done a marvelous job. We're almost at 500,000. That's a real number, which is wild. So if you haven't already, it's right there. If you're listening on podcast, you could follow the podcast. But I'm specifically talking about the YouTube channel. Just click subscribe. Nothing happens. There's no puff of smoke. There's no charge to your card. There's no nothing. It just helps us out. Appreciate you guys so much. Friday Night Lines from Athens tomorrow night. The game's on Saturday. We'll be right back here on Sunday to react to what the world brings us. Until then, for Director Bradley, Producer Jesse, I'm Josh Pate. Take care. Have a great start to your week. Enjoy the games, and God bless.